Hello guys, and it is that time again. It is time for me to do a smartphone review. I'm going to be reviewing the Samsung Galaxy S5. This phone has been out for about 6 months now, and it has seen, very high popularity, and it's generally, I'm going to just go ahead and preface this by saying this is going to be a pretty positive review of the Galaxy S5. So, here it is. The flagship that was released April of this year. And yeah, we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick overview of the phone. We'll talk about, the performance, the screen. We'll talk about the build quality, the software, the battery life, and that's about it. So let's go ahead and get right into this bad boy. So here is the Samsung Galaxy S5 in all its glory. This is a phone built around a plastic shell, which we'll get onto that in a little while. So yeah, for now we're just going to go ahead and take a little hardware tour. So flanking the front of the phone, you'll see we have a 5.1-inch Super AMOLED 1080p display with a pixel density of 432. Now this is quite a nice display. This is probably one of the nicest displays you can get on a phone right now, honestly. The colors are very punchy, because of it being a Super AMOLED screen, and it just generally looks good for any application. I mean, you can get right up to it, and there is no pixelation going on there. The phone is actually touching my camera right now, and everything just looks very sharp on this phone. So I'm very happy with the screen. Like I said, again, very punchy colors. You can go ahead and mess with the color modes, but they're not really accurate colors, but they're very punchy. A lot of people like this, some people don't. I personally do. So yeah, just overall, very good display. We're definitely seeing some good things there. So for performance, for specs, let's call it the system on chip, we're looking at a 2.5 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon 801. This is a quad-core CPU with 2 gigabytes of RAM and an Adreno 330 GPU. This is some of the highest-end phone, system on chips that we have at this current moment. Anything you want to throw at this phone, it's going to run very well. I'm just going to preface this. We'll go ahead and get into that a little later in the review, but for now, I just want to let you know that the performance of this phone is very good. Moving on with the hardware tour of this phone, we see on the top here that we have the notification RGB light. We have the Samsung logo, an earpiece. There is both an infrared sensor for the Smart Stay feature and a ambient light sensor. Right there, you can see those two little dots. Then we have the camera. It is, I believe it's a 2 megapixel front-facing camera. It's definitely not the greatest camera in the world, but it's good enough. So down here we have our home button, and then they did replace the menu button with a multitasking, switcher button, which is actually nice. That's actually a feature I quite like, because I often found myself, holding the home button on my S4 when I had it. So this is actually a welcome improvement. We have our home button there, which houses a fingerprint sensor. We'll go ahead and get into more on that a little bit later. And then, of course, there we have the back button. So that is the front of the phone. Moving on to the top, we see we have an IR blaster, a microphone, and a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack there. On the right, you can see we just have a lock-unlock button. So yeah, there you go. On the bottom, we have our USB 3.0 port, which is actually pretty nice. I believe this is the first phone to actually have USB 3.0, and it actually makes more of a difference than you think. The transfer rates are much faster. So you have this little flap. I'm really not generally a fan of this, but I realized they had to do this for a feature we'll talk about a little later. Moving on, we have a microphone and then the volume rocker. Going on the back of the phone, we have this new back cover. It's got a grippy, rubbery feel to it. It actually feels pretty good. People have been making fun of this, saying it looks like a golf ball or whatever, but this is miles ahead of the S4. Just trust me on that. This actually feels really good in the hand. So Anyway, moving on. Up here we have our 16 megapixel ISO cell camera. This is actually a very, very good shooter. We'll actually look at that in depth a little later. So there's the LED flash, and then we have this dedicated hardware feature. It's a heart rate sensor. I don't know why Samsung felt the need to make this a feature. I really don't. This is all I'm going to say for it right now, because I don't even really want to touch on it. It's one of those things where they just felt like they needed to put it on, I guess, because you can just get an app where you can put your finger on the camera and it'll tell you your heart rate just the same. AT&T logo, Galaxy S5. Then we have the speaker right here. The speaker isn't that amazing, honestly, but it's good enough for casual listening. If you want to do any serious listening, though, you're going to want to use headphones. So yeah, that's that. Let's talk about just the overall build quality real quick. The build quality of this phone, while being plastic, is generally good. You know, this back cover definitely makes a lot of difference. You know, I didn't really have a problem with the plastic frame on the Galaxy S4. So this is a welcome improvement. There are some discrepancies here, like the lock button is slightly loose, but for the most part, everything is lined up, everything is good. It's generally good build quality. So there we go. So this phone is, it does have a little trick up its sleeve. It actually is IP67 water and dust resistant. It's water resistant for up to 30 meters, or I mean up to 30 minutes in 1 meter of water, which is actually quite nice. So getting back to this is why this USB flap is necessary. And like I mentioned before, I don't really like this. I can see this breaking off quite easily sometime down the road. But again, I know it was necessary to keep that water resistance. So I've also found interesting that Samsung managed to keep this phone, you know, having a removable back and also make it still water resistant. You can see there's a rubber O-ring or a rubber gasket around the important parts. You see that the camera and the heart rate sensor are both exposed, which is kind of interesting, but I guess I can't really fault them on that because this phone actually lives up to the claim. I'm actually not going to put my phone in water because I don't want to do that, but I have seen other videos that have tested the water resistance of this phone, and it actually is, it does hold true. So that's actually an interesting feature. I wish more phones had that because while I have never killed my own phone in water, I know many people that have. So yeah, that's nice. So let's talk the software side of this phone. This is running TouchWiz version 3.0. It actually is quite an improvement over the previous version. This is, you know, it's like Samsung took TouchWiz and they made it more streamlined, they made it look cleaner, they made it run better, and you know, overall it's flatter and it looks less complicated and flashy. So I quite like what they did with TouchWiz here. Really, definitely enjoying that. And you know, the UI performance is definitely improved. You can see, I mean, I can just swipe through this all day long and it will not lag at all. So that's quite nice. I mean, same thing with this. I can just keep swiping all day and it'll keep right up. So UI performance, definitely a big improvement there. Very happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the little graphics performance on this. Let's just go ahead and give you guys an idea of what you can expect with, you know, regards to mobile gaming. So I'm going to launch Temple Run 2 here because it actually does show off the graphics. So you can see those graphics are very detailed. I would dare even say that's better than a console. So yeah, let's go ahead and just do a quick run here. You can see that the gameplay is actually quite nice. So the graphics are quite good. You know, we're getting a very good frame rate here. It's just generally working quite well. So yeah, you can see I kind of suck at this game, but yeah, there you go. So definitely performance, you are not going to be feeling a loss there. I'd also like to note that the phone does get quite hot during intense use. You know, once you're playing a game for more than 20 minutes, the back of the phone will get quite hot because that quad-core system on chip is working quite hard. But you know, that's kind of what you expect with a high-end phone like this. It's not, I wouldn't say it's uncomfortable. I mean, it does get warm, but I wouldn't say it's like to the point where I wouldn't use the phone for its intended purpose anymore. Let's talk about really the only thing that I think is a bad thing on this phone is the settings app. Like, okay, this is a little more manageable, but let's go back to what it is on stock. What is this? How does this make any sense at all? I mean, seriously, what is this crap? How am I supposed to navigate through this? This is not easy. It's not even remotely similar to the previous settings app, but I can totally kind of fix that. Let's go to view by, let's go tab view, and at least we have, it's a little more manageable that way. I do like this quick settings thing though, because this is completely customizable. You can put whatever you want in there. So that's actually a little nice. But the settings app, Samsung, what were you thinking? Continuing on, I want to talk about battery life. I generally get a day's usage out of this phone. As you can see here, here's my battery stats. I've been on the battery for 13 hours. We're at 48%, and I have 2.5 hours of screen on time. That's with the brightness below half, and you know, just me using general usage. You can see that that's, you know, kind of that doesn't really give you a good picture, but that is that. So battery life is generally quite good. So the fingerprint sensor, let's talk about that real quick. Samsung decided to steal a little bit of Apple mojo here and then put their own version of the home button fingerprint sensor. And I just have to say that this thing sucks balls with fingerprints. I mean, it's really bad. I could not use it because it was so inaccurate. At least when I had the iPhone for a while, the fingerprint sensor was actually quite good. So yeah, don't use this. It's there because they wanted to put it there. It's just one of those things that just doesn't work well on this phone. One more thing before I go. Let's talk about, well, I'm not going to talk about it because there's no point in talking about it, but let's go ahead and test out that ISOCELL 16 megapixel camera. I'm going to go ahead and input some pictures and a video clip right now that's going to show you the quality of that camera. This is a test of the Samsung Galaxy S5 video quality. Pretty nice if you ask me. It's got autofocus. Let me do that again. So it does have autofocus, which is nice. It's also got stereo microphones. So it's pretty good quality video. So yeah, guys, I mean, that is literally it. I could show you all the hardware or the software features that Samsung preloads into TouchWiz, but I really don't think that's important. I think I've given you this is a more hardware-focused overview of the phone. But there you go. That is my review of the Samsung Galaxy S5. I believe I showed you what's important there. So overall, I'd have to give this phone maybe an 8.5 out of 10. It's got a couple of flaws, but overall, it's a very good phone. I definitely would have to recommend it. So I would like to thank you guys for watching this review, and I will see you guys later.